Shalom, greetings. I'm Rabbi Michael Panitz. I'm the rabbi of Temple Israel of Norfolk, Virginia, and I'm deeply honored to be invited to preach at Christ and St. Luke's Church here in Norfolk. This is not the first year I've done so, and it's always a pleasure. It's a bit disorienting to be in the choir of the pulpit of the church, but not have people in the sanctuary. But I have faith that through the wonders of modern technology, these words will reach the congregation. Today is the Sabbath in conjunction with Father's Day, celebrated in America. And so I'm going to share with you a Father's Day message. The message is entitled Non-Toxic Masculinity. Let's acknowledge that this month we've seen much evidence of crisis. We've been overwhelmed with images of violence. One man kills another. This happens again and again. An angry protester throws rocks, wounding peace officers or civilians. People smash, burn, and loot. Perhaps some of us were tallying the percentage of men as opposed to women committing these acts of violence. I didn't do a statistical count, but my impression is that overwhelmingly the violent ones were males. I saw women shouting angrily, but the most destructive actions were done by men. That may be rooted in biology, but while biology has a vote in our makeup, it ought not have a veto. I believe that part of the addiction to violence that we have seen is a result of training. As a society, we have allowed an unhealthy concept of masculinity to flourish. This concept stresses decisive physical action. It can sometimes be good, but it can also sometimes be bad. It acts the way an accelerant acts upon a fire, turning righteous indignation into unfocused rage, turning protest into projectiles, turning anger into arson. Today I want to suggest that there are healthier models. These are models of non-toxic masculinity. We can teach them. We can model them. By doing so, we can plant seeds of a more peaceful tomorrow. Since concepts of masculinity are partly cultural and not only biological, they are taught. So let's begin with a biblical proverb about teaching. Proverbs chapter 22, verse 6, is generally rendered, "Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it." The idea stressed in this translation from the original Hebrew is that good habits, like bad habits, are enduring. This is certainly true. The most recent Jewish publication Society translation also conveys this sense. Train a lad in the way he ought to go, he will not swerve from it, even in old age. But I believe that the original Hebrew verse is telling us something different than what is conveyed in most translations. The Bible scholar who contributed the insight I'm about to share is Stephen Garfinkel, a professor at the Jewish Theological Seminary. The words of the Hebrew original are Chanoch lana'ar al pi darko. The words are not obscure. It is their nuance that we must work hard to capture. Chanoch means educate or train. La is the preposition leading to na'ar, which means youth or lad. Al pi means according to, and darko means his path, his inclination. If you combine the words precisely, you get a nugget of pedagogical wisdom. Train a child according to his nature, and even when he grows old, he will not depart from it. Train a youth in keeping with his path, meaning his learning style. Train a youth in accordance with his manner of absorbing information. Train a youth by noting his psychological makeup and working with it. In the past 3 decades, this old insight has found new expression. In 1983, Howard Gardner published Frames of Mind. In that work, he proposed his theory of multiple intelligences. It's not only a matter of verbal and quantitative abilities, as measured by the older tests. Other brain domains are also properly described as intelligences. Musical abilities are a separate intelligence, as are bodily kinesthetic abilities. Hearing an expert musician play or sing, or watching a fine dancer move, confirms Gardner's claim. Other domains include the ability to manage interpersonal relationships and, conversely, intrapersonal intelligence, the ability to know oneself. Gardner's theory enriched the practice of pedagogy. It gave a vocabulary to express what skilled teachers had always known intuitively. Some children need to manipulate, to hold in their hands. Some learn well by listening. Some learn best by seeing diagrams and pictures. Good teachers have always identified different channels to use in conveying lessons. And now they had a theoretical framework expressing why that works. I believe that the biblical proverb is telling us as parents to note our children's style in learning and to use that knowledge to teach effectively. Lessons learned by using the child's native tendencies in learning will be absorbed and they will endure. We now understand that the Bible is telling us, teach a child in accordance with his own psychological makeup, and the lesson will become part of him for life. What are the implications of this for fatherhood? Once it is fully understood, this proverb opens a window to a more general truth about being a father. The verse is reminding us that children are not uniform machine parts. They are individuals, each one a unique combination of traits. In dealing with them, we need to keep their humanity in focus, and then we need to help them to accentuate the best parts of their humanity. The Bible is giving us 2 lessons here. The first ought to be obvious, but sadly, it is often ignored. By definition, parents are teachers. Education is not only a matter of schooling, of sending children off to school. We teach our children by our own lived example. Our children watch us as if their lives depend upon it, because way back in evolutionary history, that was literally true. Our children see our strengths and our weaknesses. They note when we practice what we preach and when we do not. We teach them honesty or hypocrisy, moral courage or moral cowardice, compassion or cruelty by living our lives in front of them. The second lesson for fathers is that while a father can delegate the task of teaching technical skills to his children, he can never wholly abdicate his role in character education. Our children need to know more in many fields than we are competent to impart. Professional teachers are indispensable, but teachers supplement and they do not replace parents in certain key areas. Teachers do not take the place of parents in teaching children to be good people, caring neighbors, committed and responsible citizens, dreamers for decency. In a sense, we have transferred a problem and not yet solved it. We have seen that to be a good father, you have to work on yourself, because like it or not, you are and you remain an accessible role model, serving as the pedestal for any life your child will erect. But now we have to address the issue of your own ongoing character refinement. Parents of newborns are not finished products, spiritually speaking. We ought to grow throughout life, to grow in wisdom, to grow in maturity, to grow in spirituality, even when the arc of our physical abilities is on the downslope. Here we should connect a poetic image from the Bible with a proverbial saying of the rabbis. The book of Psalms gives us one of the root metaphors of our thinking about God. Psalm 103, verse 13. As a father has compassion on his children, so has the eternal compassion on those who are reverent. Why is this a metaphor, an image, rather than simply a description? Because the language of the Bible is symbolic in nature. God is not a father like any father in our ordinary experience. Every human or animal father is finite. God is not. Every human or animal father is mortal. God is not. When the Bible calls God Father, it is using the resources of non-literal language, of poetry and drama, to convey a non-journalistic truth. We call God Father not because God is a literal father, but because of certain likenesses between earthly fathers and God. A father helps bring new life into the world. God is creator. A father helps to establish a set of behavioral norms for children. God gives us commandments. And the point of the psalmist in creating this image is that fathers are naturally tender to their children. That quality of tenderness is now applied poetically to God. The image coined by the psalmist became a staple of Jewish and of Christian thought. From the Jewish matrix, it was carried over into Christianity, and now Jews and Christians alike speak of God as our Heavenly Father. In societies or subcultures where the tender side of fatherhood is suppressed as somehow unmasculine, the biblical verse is an important corrective. If we've allowed ourselves to forget the tenderness of proper masculinity, then let our theology rescue us. We once ascribed fatherly tenderness to God. The time has come to restore fatherly tenderness to human fathers. And yet, I can imagine some people not being able to hear the message that a real man could cultivate tenderness. So many proverbs. When the going gets tough, the tough get going, and many, many others. When we are hungry for heroes, how do we teach that manliness is not always expressed as machismo? Here, let me share with you a powerful rabbinic proverb. This is from the teachings of Rabbi Simon ben Zoma, who lived in the early 2nd century, the same time as the time of the early church fathers. He asked a series of ethical questions, and he gave unconventional answers. Who is wise? He who learns from all people. Who is wealthy? He who is content with what he has. Who is to be respected? He who shows respect for all others. And the one that will help us in our current deliberation, who is a hero? He who subdues his own inclination. In case we don't understand the counterintuitive intent of Rabbi ben Zoma's proverb, its continuation makes that very clear. The rabbi quotes the book of Proverbs, another verse, Proverbs 16:32. He who is slow to anger is better than the mighty. He who rules over his spirit better than he who conquers a city. The hero could be either male or female, but we're speaking now of fathers, of men. Who is the hero? What is the model of heroism to teach our sons so that they grow up to be fathers of a better future? Heroism starts with self-control. Not the gang leader, not the strutting and posturing caricatures of masculinity who populate West Side Story or Grease. The ideal male, according to both biblical and rabbinic wisdom, is the man who masters his own impulses. As the poet Catherine Lee Bates, the author of America the Beautiful, put into that famous hymn, the challenge for America was, confirm thy soul in self-control, thy liberty in law. That is the message of our traditions for fathers. Confirm your souls in self-control, and you will be able to be worthy, responsible, decent, honest, good fathers, the junior partners of the Father of us all. Amen.